Season 1 of 2025. Let's see what sort of adventures that it has in store. And base cards way through the corner. That wasn't the crest doing him dirty.
There right off the beginning. It's something you probably want to monopolize on right away, honestly, in a rain race.
Involved in that as well. Doden, I believe, is a newer racer. Oh, that's a big crash coming out of the corner. Right as I was mentioning all of those racers, that the field. We saw him have that off-track moment not terribly long ago, and he has come back from a... And oh my god, that's a big wreck coming out of turn number 4. Multiple cars around. A little bit of contact going to Chris Montgomery as well. I saw that car kind of jerk around a little bit through that corner, but you can see Montgomery maybe got to size up a move on Coliseum, as Coliseum may try and get a move on. That is 5-6 cars covered by just about nothing on this racetrack. Nearly 4 wide through the corner. Look at Coliseum going in way deep into turn 5. He's going to lose out on that spot on Chris Montgomery and maybe Coliseum. Too long contact being... Weekly Formula V Weekend Warriors crash him up wreckfest at the checkered flag. May God have mercy on both Josh and I's graphics cards because the event does. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula V Weekend Warriors. This is round number 2 of this season, coming to you today from Magny-Cours. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me, working the comms and the cams, is Josh Wilkie. We're going to be in Magny-Cours all weekend long here for the Weekend Warriors, and first up, as always, we have the Formula Vs, which seem to put on great races just about everywhere we go. So you put these cars on a track that, despite being very twisty and very technical, has those long flat-out blasts and those heavy braking zones that may turn this race into an absolute game of the leapfrog. Josh, we don't have a lot of experience when it comes to this track, if we're being completely honest, but we have enough experience for these Formula Vs to know that they can put on some brilliant shows.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Ron. We were just kind of speaking before the show here, and I was mentioning to you that I've never actually really taken any laps around here, maybe a couple when it first came out, but I haven't had a chance to practice, unfortunately. My back's not doing too good, and I haven't really had a chance to get out here and turn some laps. But man, we're going to get to know it pretty good this weekend with the Weekend Warriors, as we're doing it in the FVs, the FFs, and the SRFs as well. So we're going to get to know this track pretty good over the weekend here, I think.
Yeah, we're going to get a good view of this track all throughout these broadcasts, and just seeing like 3 completely different ends of the spectrum. Obviously, these draft-heavy Formula Vs and the also draft-heavy Spec Racer Fords, and those Formula Fords as well, which, who knows, we may see rain in the forecast for that. I'll have to take a look to see how the forecast is going to shake out for tomorrow. But around this 17-turn road course, 2.74 miles long, it's going to be a tough one for these racers. Magny-Cours, probably most known as being the host of the French Grand Prix some years ago. I think the last running was in 2007 or 2008. It's a notoriously tough track to overtake at when it comes to these, when it comes to big cars like Formula 1 cars. But here for these Formula Vs, I think it's going to be a little bit easier. And talk about easy, it was a pretty easy way to. It's pretty easy to say that James Matthew Sheldon got the season kicked off in the best way imaginable in the number 88 car. He won the opening race of the season 1 week ago at Cadwell Park, and currently finds himself at the top of the this practice session as it stands at the present moment. 2-minute 4 lap times here, so we're going to follow him for a little bit. Probably not do a lap guide presently, just based off the fact we're only about 45 seconds away from the end of this practice session, and doubly so because James Matthew Sheldon decided to call his practice session right there. You also see the gravel trap and the gravel getting strewn across the racetrack right before that final chicane. So Josh, it feels like we talk about this a lot nowadays, but may have to talk about some of the gravel being dispensed out onto the racing surface.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely become a thing here in iRacing now. We do have a particle system. It does definitely mess your day up from time to time. And yep, you're right. It does look like we have some gravel around here on the inside of some corners too, kind of in a, a spot maybe even where you'd want to cut a little bit or perhaps even be pushed into or something. But I'm a pretty big fan of having gravel traps close to the edge of a track just because it is a deterrent rather than having to take a big wide line out there, maybe take an X and gain some speed. You can't really do that when there's gravel out there. You're going to lose some speed, and as you mentioned, it's going to kick up onto the track as well. And the new particle system, man, I still haven't quite put a finger on exactly what it feels like under the car because you don't hit it very often, but I can tell you that it definitely does mess your day up, and we're probably going to see that happen a couple times today as well.
I gotta say, gravel and racing don't go together well at all. Not only is the grip obviously reduced, but I have a story about a bad rock encounter from my karting days. I think this was the last time I was running full-time in karts back in 2022. I was running at this lot that we run at in the Philly region of the SCCA, which is basically a disused airfield that the military used and then promptly abandoned back in the late 90s. It's still around in some degree, albeit most of it's been turned into a park. But on this small little bit of runway, I was running around here, and I think I was probably going about 65 when a rock got flung up from one of the front tires and whacked me right in like one of the lower knuckles of one of the fingers on my left hand. And for
Ouch.
Probably about a year afterwards, and even sometimes it does flare up to this day, moving the other ring finger on my left hand kind of feels like it sounds like someone stepping onto freshly fallen snow. It's very crunchy, so that's gotta love karting. You got war wounds like that throughout karting, and these drivers, thankfully, their hands will be safe for this race, but their grips certainly will not. We got this 15-minute long qualifying session that we're going into at the present moment, and 4 laps allotted to these drivers to try and get the job done. And considering the length of this track as well, we will see those 4 laps get used and those 15 minutes get used as well.
Yeah, I think you're probably going to need the full 15 around here for sure. Again, this looks like one of those tracks, Ron, and I don't have a lot of experience around here. Obviously, we were mentioning in the run-up, but just by looking at the layout, and I did do a lap or two around here, it seemed to me like it's going to be a really fun track. It's challenging. It's got some pretty cool spots, but it's going to be one of those tracks that you need to learn and you need to get really nailed down and have a line, especially in the V's, as we know, being such a momentum heavy car. You really, really need to make sure you carry momentum, and there's going to be some spots around here that makes that a little bit difficult. So I would imagine we're going to be using the full 15 minutes. And again, as usual, the person who's kind of put the most practice in and sort of has the lines really nailed down is gonna shine today, I think.
And trying to see how these drivers are going to tackle this racetrack as well. And some of the drivers we're going to be seeing here are going to be ones that run in the Formula Fords and the Spec Racer Fords as well. So rather important that they get a good idea as to how this racetrack is going to be. And when they crank up the speeds a little bit tomorrow, that's going to make a world of difference. But I think we're going to do an onboard lap potentially with our SMB colleague, Mr. Guido Marzuki, in the number 19 car. You can see him heading his way off through the final chicane right now. That section, that's going to be a sling for these racers, but heading on to the start-finish straight away, it's a long run, a rather long run for these Formula Vs, going through the gears up into 4th as you head your way off through Grand Courbe of turn number 1. I will try to refrain from any sort of French name pronunciations throughout this broadcast for the simple sake that I don't want to make myself out to be a giant ass. Maybe just a small ass. That's what I usually do best. Estoril, that's turn number 3 that we just saw Marzuki go through right now. Spinning your way onto this rather long back straightaway. This flat-out blast going to be a huge draft opportunity for these drivers, and still turning through it. That's golf corner of turn number 4 right there, but still flat out in just about any race car. I don't think there's anything that you need to lift, unless you're going at the speed of sound, in which case you may have to. That's turn number 5 of Adelaide. That hairpin, always a good overtaking opportunity, both in real life and in the sim as well. That straightaway before that, though, is probably going to be a massive game of leapfrog. That's turn number 6. Heading now into the Nürburgring section of 7 and 8. Important to hit these curbs. Just lightly graze them. You don't want to send yourself barreling off the circuit into the gravel trap and probably into the tire barrier as well. This is 180 degree. Yes, a very catchy name. That's turn number 9. 180 degrees to be a bit more precise. This is turn number 10, the kink that these drivers will have to deal with, keeping them on their toes coming out of that section. Now still turning onto the small low flat out blast just out of turn number 11 a couple of moments ago into another fast chicane section, kind of a repeat of 7 and 8, yet again uphill. This is Imola of turn number 12 and 13, still turning, having to get yourself set up on the outside line into turn number 14, whose French name pronunciation I will not even touch with a 10-foot pole. Coming out there's another flat out blast, heading our way off into this kink. Not even called a corner. It's not even numbered a corner, but it is still called the chicane, which I don't believe is entirely correct, but hey, who am I to judge? This is turn number 15, another hard braking opportunity. Now spinning our way off into this final chicane. You can catch out many drivers in those killer curves through that section. Going to be super tough for these racers as well. That completes a lap of Magny-Cours. Despite being a rather hectic track, I feel like in these Formula Vs, it's somewhat muted in an odd way.
Yeah, honestly, you know, again, I don't have a lot of experience around here. It looks like a great track, though. But yeah, I think you're right. It does. You know, there's sections I think through here that are pretty mega in a really fast car, and the V's just not quite as fast. It's a little bit more technical, and that's kind of what we're going to see here today. Again, the line is going to be so important around here, as we saw Guido making big cuts across some of the curbs and so on, and those are sort of the little nuances you need to know about a track like this. Those are going to get you those tenths, and you know, just from personal experience myself, it takes a little bit of time sometimes to really open a track up and start to see that stuff. And everybody's fairly new here, so you know, we're going to have our specialists like Jason Green and perhaps Felix Samoes, maybe James Sheldon. These are specialists who go out there and they seem to be able to find those nuances a little bit quicker than everybody else, but only time will tell.
And looking through in this qualifying session at the moment, at some of the other classes that we have, Michelle Lynn at the front of Spec 2 presently in the 215 car. She grabbed the pole position 1 week ago, Cadwell Park in Spec 2, put that car P10 on the starting grid, and our pole sitter and Masters was Antonio Reese. Should be noted, looking through, Antonio, I'm not sure if he's here at the present moment. His teammate Jörg Mani is, though, and Mani was just, I mean, absolutely the creme de la creme, so to speak, to invoke a little French here at this French track. Jörg was super quick during Season 1 across the entirety of the Weekend Warriors, so we're certainly got to be keeping tabs on him now for Season 2. But at the front of the field, Felix Samoes has jumped his way up to the provisional pole in the number 31 car, was involved in some unfortunate incidents, shall we say, during the race at Cadwell Park 1 week ago. Really, despite being the reigning champion in the spec race, Fords did not have a good time of it in the Formula Vs, but now looks like he's turning over a new leaf. He finds himself on the front row with James Sheldon, who won that race 1 week ago, Cadwell Park. So got some heavy hitters at the north end of the field, which include Jason Green, who was actually our pole sitter 1 week ago.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Felix Samoes, man, what a fast driver. He's fast in everything. You know, I've raced him in the SRFs, and I'm not sure I've seen him in the FFs yet. You might have to correct me on that one, but man, he's fast. He's fast everywhere. You know, the nuance I was talking about, Felix Samoes is that nuance. He seems to be able to just find the speed out there, and it seems effortless for him, too. And I've been behind him a couple times in the car, and I'm just like, he's pulling away from me, and I'm like, I look like I'm doing the same thing, but he's able to just do it faster. And man, he's a consummate professional out there, and I think we're going to have a really good battle between him, James, and Jason up at the front here. And you know, we know these things draft as well, so I'm sure there's going to be some other people along in that party as well, Ron.
I think if I had $1 for every single time I said that, it's like there's a shop vac attached to the back end of these race cars. I'd probably be making more money from saying that on the air than I would be making money from being on the air itself. But still, the draft is absolutely insane in these Formula Vs. I've said this a lot as of late, whether it be on these Weekend Warriors broadcasts or some of the Radical shows that I do over on the iRacing channel. There's like 3 cars that really have the most amount of draft on iRacing. It's the Formula V, the Spec Racer Ford, and the Radical SR10. Josh and I both have a lot of experience with all three of those race
sure
cars,
do.
and that's a rather exclusive club of cars that are just absolute draft monsters. At least the road course cars, that is. Once you get into the oval stuff, some of the Indy cars, holy cow, I think the stat in Indy is like halfway down some of the straightaways there. You can still get some form of draft, and those straightaways I think are 7/8 of a mile long. I'm not entirely sure. I may have to correct myself on that, which would be rather embarrassing considering I'm like the IndyCar history guy here on SMB. But before I start talking about the history of the Indy 500, which haven't been known, folks, I can go on about that for way too long. Let's talk about how things are shaking out in Spec 2, where it's looking very, very close. Brian Sosinski finds himself on the provisional pole, currently qualified in 9th. Restelker right behind him in 10th, and Michelle Lynn right behind those two in P11. 3 Spec 2 drivers, all starting nose to tail as it would stand currently, and practically nothing between them as well. And actually, as we are speaking about this Spec 2 battle, should be noted that Russell Telker is sponsoring today's broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, so I'd like to thank Russ for making this broadcast possible here today. And you will also see the ALS Foundation in the other corner. Russ, as in some of the previous events that he has sponsored, he's wanted to show some love to that foundation, and if we get a chance to have a chat with him, I'll certainly pass the floor off to him so he can speak a little bit more about how much that foundation means to him. But hey, warding off the curse that some of these drivers usually face whenever they sponsor a broadcast, running pretty all right in this qualifying session, still in 10th and 2nd of the Spec 2 racers.
Yeah, it's looking pretty tight in Spec 2 at the moment, isn't it? So it looks like we're going to have a pretty good race kind of all around today. Jorg Manny, as usual, kind of punching way above the weight of a usual Masters driver up into 6th place here. I wouldn't be surprised if he finds some of that nuance I was talking about in the track here as we go as well. So he's going to definitely be someone to look out for in the race, but definitely going to be keeping my eye on that Spec 2 battle. We have Hank Millet and Michael Laturo actually not too far behind there as well, with Kurt Nunez and Jim Brewster kind of sandwich in the middle of the S2 drivers there. But yeah, the S2 field's actually looking like we're pretty flushed out. S2 there, Joshua Flores, Chris Scriven, Brian Hansen, Jason Greider, Travis Rail down there in 23rd. We got a pretty good field of S2 drivers here, so hopefully we can see some fun there as well.
Nice little pack of Spec 2 racers in this field as these drivers look to bring this qualifying session to a conclusion. Lots of them have already expired their 4 laps, and one of them is soon going to be James Matthew Sheldon. He is on his 4th lap at the present moment. He's currently coming his way out of turn number 14 down this small low flat out blast into the 15th corner. This section, it can catch these drivers out pretty badly, despite being such a slow section. I've seen some broadcasts where people have flipped there, and like flipped in a GT3 car. I remember doing race control for a series not terribly long ago, and someone got popped up onto their lid heading through that section. But James Matthew Sheldon crossing the line a couple of moments ago. It is, I believe, a slight improvement on his quality. Actually, no, it was not an improvement. Very close, though. Still in that 205.33 territory, but still finds himself in second to Felix Samoas, who's improved to a 205.090, as still waiting for these other drivers to get their final laps on the board. Looking good for Samoas, though.
Yeah, that is, I mean, we know, Ron, in the V's, 3/10 in a qualifying session that's huge. That's a huge gap. Felix Samoas has found something out there. I would imagine, though, because like we were speaking with the draft, that people are going to be able to kind of follow him along there. And with any luck, the guys behind him, with their luck, hopefully, they will be able to find that line that he's been able to find. Because, man, 3/10 in one of these over a lap is quite a bit, as we know. That's quite a bit. He's found something out there that nobody else seems to be able to find. And then after that, we have about a 10th gap, and then it really starts to kind of close up. But, man, talk about class of the field there for Samoas today.
And as we're bringing this qualifying session to a conclusion, I want to raise a point that our old pal Tam in the YouTube chat raised, asking us about the track limits rules around this racetrack. So iRacing, as of recent, has kind of made the off-track rules a little bit clearer, but around a track like this, it is a little bit of a case-by-case basis. The turn 5 hairpin, pretty much after the white line right by the racetrack, from the curb in, that counts as an off-track. And then you go to a corner like turn 8 where you can use the curb on both the inside and the outside. And then there's other sections like the final chicane for instance, where you also have the same slightly more relaxed track limits rules, shall we say, where you can use a curb. So it's a bit of a case-by-case basis, and that's a good point that she raises. Of course, these drivers do get bonus points based off how many incident points or how little incident points they pick up in these races. And those incident points, even if you don't get the bonus, they can affect your points pretty badly. A drive-through at 13x, you get disqualified at 18. Those incident points around a track like this, where you do have those slightly inconsistent rules, can really catch up to you. That right there from Jeff Jacobson is just about as close as you can get through the final chicane.
Yeah, that's about as close as you can get. Good point brought up there by Tam and yourself there. We have, that's sort of the nuance I'm talking about out there. You need to know the curbs that you can take a whole bunch of and are like double curbs basically, so you can kind of get inside that white line and you can actually use the whole thing, and you need to know the ones that you can't, like that. So he was able to kind of get out to the edge of the curb right there, and I bet you that wasn't an off track because there is a little bit of painted curb there. Maybe it was, though, and you have to kind of know that as you're going into the race. Some of the curbs you'll be able to kind of get over that white line into the curb and use the whole thing, and some you won't, and that's definitely some of the nuance of a track when you're learning it. And it makes things a little difficult, to be honest. It makes things a little confusing for a viewer. It makes things confusing for a driver. I sort of wish, as a lot of people do watching F1 as well, that they would just make one rule to rule them all and just sort of leave it at that, and then we would be able to kind of know when people are off track or not. But that's the way it is, and that's the nuance we were talking about earlier.
And I think there's certain ways that you can kind of police the track limits to be a bit more consistent. Maybe put some landmines out that actually know what they need. Is like a springboard that just pops the car up into the air if you go off the track. Yeah. It's like a jack in the box. Pong.
Doink.
Pop goes the race car. That'd be a pretty good system, I think. I'm not sure if iRacing has the physics simulation to make that work yet, but it would be very entertaining. Bringing the fun here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, but to bring in the fun of this second race of this Formula V Weekend Warriors season, let's take a look at the starting grid. These drivers already lining up to get this formation lap underway soon. And it's going to be Felix Samoa starting from the pole in the number 31 car at 2.5.090. That's a very good lap time. James Matthew Sheldon, 2.5 tenths of a second back, will start in P2. Those two had a little bit of a beef the last time they were racing in France together for the Spec Racer Ford race at Le Mans, so maybe a little bit spicy heading down into turn number 1. Jason Green will start in third next to Ethan Orr, starting in P4. We have Nate Coliseo starting in fifth. I just realized with that Orr 4 quote, I'm a poet and I don't know. Nate Coliseo will start in P5. Guido Marzuki going to round out your third row. Then we have Jörg Monty starting from the Masters pole in 7th. Richie Cohen making his season debut. He has been around the block in this series before, but hasn't raced thus far this season. He will start in P8. Brian Sazinski going to grab the Spec 2 pole with Russell Telker, rounding out your top 10.
Yeah, and then continuing on in the Spec 2 in third place in Spec 2 is Michelle Lynn. Jim Brewster in 12th place. Moving on there, we have Kurt Nunez in Masters in 13th, Leon Frost in 14th, Michael Laturo in 15th, Hank Mele in 16th, Joshua Flores in 17th, Chris Scriven in 18th, Brian Hansen in 19th, and Jeff Jacobson in 20th, Ron.
And looking through the drivers that we have starting outside of the top 20, it starts with Nick Tullo in 21st, Jason Grider in 22nd, Travis Rail in P23, Wayne Buttermore starting in at 24th, and rounding out our field, we have John Toms. 25 cars set to tackle this racetrack. I gotta say, credit where credit's due to these racers. This track, not a part of base content, but still good to see a lot of drivers out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always great. I love the new tracks and stuff. Sometimes it can be a little tough to get everybody out on some of the paid and brand new content, but I think this track was good enough that everybody just picked her up. I think it's a really good track. People are going to like it, and I think we're going to have a really good race today with a pretty good field out there as well. We got a pretty solid field of cars, and spread across all the classes as well, and that's exactly what we want to see. So, yeah, you're usually going to get a little bit less, participation on the pay tracks, especially a new one, and we are seeing maybe a little bit of that. But man, we got most of the field out there. It's going to be a good one.
That it will here at Magnet Court to get this weekend of Weekend Warriors action underway right about now. The field coming out of the final chicane. Got to wait a little bit before we get that green flag, but these drivers are already gunning at the green flag is out, and the drivers are on their way. Pretty good start from James Matthew Sheldon on the outside row, but it's going to be Felix Samoas holding on to that inside line, heading all through turn at number 1. Some drivers going side by side a little bit farther in the back. That, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, is Richie Cohen is now involved in a battle with himself and Nate Colacio. Guido Marzuki running right behind him as these drivers come out of Estoril of turn at number 3. They're going to be dealing with this long straightaway for the first time. Felix Samoa's going to be a sitting duck. He enters this straightaway with the lead. Let's see how he exits turn number 5. James Matthew Sheldon on the outside line. He's getting a little bit of assistance, got a little bit of assistance from Jason Green. He's now going to make a 3-wide hang down into turn number 5 at the very beginning of this race. Let's see how it's going to work out. Samoa still holding his own on the inside line. Contact being made with Sheldon and Green, but well done to Samoa to withstand that challenge.
Yeah, that was a bit of a schmozzle there. We have a bunch of cars trying to occupy the same piece of track, but looks like we got through there pretty clean. We see Colacio almost making it too wide there going into that corner, but it looks like we're going to single file out. Yeah, I think this one's going to be pretty good. It looks like there's kind of just enough draft out there to kind of get everybody right up to the bum of you before you get into the next corner kind of thing. And man, I think we're going to be seeing that a lot here.
And a slight difference in camera angles that I have. I completely neglected to mention a spin that Jim Brewster had on the screen that did not appear from my perspective. It appeared to the viewer, so that was a spin coming out of turn number 5, so clearly that section already catching out Jim. An unfortunate start for him. Finds himself in P23. Only driver he's in front of was Wayne Buttermore, and John Toms, I don't believe, took the start in the 277 car. Let's take a look to see the drama heading off into turn number 5 for Jim. Tim, look away at this exact point in time. I'll tell you when to look back. Tries to get that move done on some racers. You can see Brian Szynski in the midst of all of that and lost it on the outside. That's the thing with Adelaide of turn number 5. That hairpin, it's got some weird banking stuff going on with it. Kind of feels like a bowl heading through there, and it also flans out towards the edge. I think we kind of saw that get on full display with the spin from Jim.
Yeah, that was kind of just a spin on his own as we saw Chris Scriven in the background there, just sending it into the last corner through that through the chicane. Looks like he took a little too much speed, but he's back pointing straight again now. But yeah, it looks like Jim unfortunately just kind of maybe asked a little too much of the car there on some cold tires and just lost the rear end. Unfortunate, but no damage, so he's back in. I'm sure he'll make his way up through the field here. Should be interesting actually to see what Jim can accomplish there from back there, because we know he's got some speed. He'll probably make his way up as we're going 4 wide here, maybe.
Yeah, 3, 4. I mean, it's 5 cars covered by just about nothing as these racers head down into the hairpin. Look at Richie Cohen in that 12 machine trying to get some moves done on the outside. Samoa's still holding on to the race lead as these drivers look to get themselves sorted out coming out of that section. These cars, you can also hear them banging through the gears. Clutches are they're cheap as chips in the sim racing world, so thankfully these drivers won't have to worry about that too much. As Samoas and Cohen running P1 and P2 covered by just about nothing. Richie Cohen, contact heading through turn at number 9. That could have ended in tears, but well held there from Richie Cohen. That could have been a spin. Instead, it's just a slight coat ground moment.
Yeah, close one here. We're doing pretty good. It's kind of switching positions a whole bunch here between drivers. You know, a lot of these drivers have been out here racing with each other now for a couple seasons, so they should kind of know each other and what moves they're going to make, who's going to be a little bit more aggressive, who's not, and you got to learn to drive around, stuff like that. And that looks exactly like what's happening out there. We're getting some pretty clean driving so far, nice and close. Yeah, this track's pretty mega for stuff like this. I think we're going to see some tight battles the whole time.
I just thought of $1 million idea. Get all the broadcasts I'm a part of and put together a perfectly cut screams compilation of some of the stuff that I say on the air. That moment from Cohen heading off through turn at number 9, maybe a mention for that list. That section, turn 9, maybe one of the toughest points of this racetrack as we see James Sheldon doing his best lawnmower impression coming out of turn number 17. That chicane is so unbelievably clunky around this racetrack, even in these slower Formula Vs where compared to some other race cars, it kind of feels like you're going through there in slow motion, so to speak. And if you're enjoying this broadcast on slow motion broadcasting, how about you hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss out on any of the racing action. That was a good one. I think that was about as slick as 80 grit sandpaper. I'm not too sure. But that chicane, really tricky to try and get right. You got those curbs on the inside that, while you can take liberties with them track limits wise, they're also, I can't even call them curbs. It's like when you're out on the streets and you just see these massive curbs on the side of the road. You can't even call them curbs at that rate. They're more so urban plateaus. Heading off through 16 and 17, you hit one of those in these Formula Vs and you may find yourself in Liechtenstein when you're done with it all.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to cloud it too much, and you know that's most curbs, but there is a few around here that will you know, they'll definitely upset the car, let's say, maybe a little more than that. You definitely want to stay off them, but man, we are so close here in the top 4 or 5 cars. Make that, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Probably about 8 cars or something like that right in the front here still that are in draft range. And I think maybe, you know, if they don't play ball correctly here, it looks like Antonio Reese, Brian Jasinski, and the rest of those S2 drivers are going to catch up to the back of them, and we could have a massive train of cars here pretty soon.
Yeah, all aboard the Samoa's train. Choo-choo. It's got to be the Koan train if he gets his move done. Hang down into turn number 14 on the inside. Licked the stamp and sent it, and he nearly got that move done. They're still side by side coming out of the corner. I think Felix Samoa's just got a much better run on the outside, but if he can hold his own, still got to be within a fighting shot of taking this race lead. We got a lot of heavy hitters at the front of this field as nearly coming to blows, heading off through turn at number 15. Oh, wow, that was a terrible voice crack. I apologize. Ethan Orr seeing these two drivers trade blows and nearly trade paint, heading off through the final series of corners to create a massive pack of race cars at the north end of this field. You have to go back to York Monty in P7 to find the last car in this train, and even then Guido, you can just barely see him in the back of shot in the number 19 machine. He's still within striking distance too.
Yeah, I think these, you know, like we're seeing a lot of, well, even just this last chicane there, you saw Felix Samoes basically give Richie that spot. There's no way you're going through there too wide, and if you do, it's going to be so slow that you're going to have the entire pack of cars and the rest of them on you as well, the pack behind you, as we're looking, people just trying to figure out where exactly they fit in here, and we're 2 wide, we're 3 wide, we're 4 wide. See if we can't sort it out here. And it looks like we're going to with Richie in the front still. Got a very interesting line coming from, I believe that is Nate Coliseo, was it? Or is that Ethan Orr? Just off to the side there, number 22, Ethan Orr, yeah, taking kind of a strange line. I'm actually surprised that worked for him there, Ron.
Yeah, a little bit surprising. These drivers are kind of bucking the trend of what whoa, wow, boom, wee howdy, what we really expected heading into this race. I got there eventually. It took me about 1,000 years, but I still got there as we just saw a little bit of bumping going on involving Ethan Orr and Nate Coliseo. These drivers are kind of using the chrome horn a little bit. Well, I guess it's a Formula V, using the fiberglass horn a little bit on their competitors, horn, yep, heading off through some of these racetracks. I mean, considering that we do have some slow hairpins around here, coupled with those long straights that are going to keep these cars so tight, I have a feeling that it may get a little bit physical here in the not too far off future.
Whoa, just as you say that, we had, I believe that's Leon Frost almost running into the back of Brian Trzynski there. And it looks like they are catching up, I believe. That's getting a little closer to Guido, isn't it? So I think that front pack there is starting to kind of slow down a little bit, fighting each other up front. And you're going to have to kind of put that on Samoas and Richie there, I believe, that are, as we see Trzynski taking a wide line there, way out into the gravel. He's going to lose a bit of time there. I believe Michel Lind's probably going to have his number coming down the straightaway here, as well as Kurt Nunez looking for a place as well.
Yeah, and these drivers 2x2 hang down into turn number 1. This section, usually you think of turn 1 as being a good overtaking opportunity. Here, though, it mainly just functions as a little bit of a funnel for these cars. Let them single file out as they head off into that section. Otherwise, side by side through there, I've seen it work occasionally. I've also seen it go desperately wrong. So two different ends of the coin for you right there. Talking about the battles that we got going on all throughout this field. This is kind of what we expected, if we're being honest. This massive pack of race cars. And looking through, I'm trying to see who's at the tail end of all this. I think I have to find Michael Lautarulo in the 826 car, all the way in the back of shot as they're heading their way down that start-finish straightaway. The field currently being led by Richie Koan in that 12 car. Felix Samoas in that 31 machine, looking to get some moves done as well. Samoas, I mean, he's very much so a known quantity, the reigning Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors champion, and for the Week 13 run-outs a couple of weeks ago, he was rather fast there as well, making his full-time series debut here with the FVs, and just put on a pretty nice move, hang down into turn number 9 to retake the lead.
Yeah, for sure. He's not giving that one up easy, for sure. He wants Richie to know that he's there and that he can take positions and stuff as well. So, you know, we're seeing some pretty aggressive driving out of Kohan there, and I think Felix Samoa is just sort of answering that question for him and making sure that he knows, hey, I can make passes too, and I can be pointy as well. So hopefully that will calm things down at the front a little bit here, honestly, and they can start to pull away a little bit. But if they keep squabbling the way they are, Ron, they're going to have a real big problem on their hands pretty soon in the shape of all the cars that are behind them catching up.
And let's see how these drivers are going to squabble up in the rest of this race. We still have a tick under 20 minutes left to go. So despite how hectic the first 10 have been, we still haven't even hit the halfway mark. And you can see a little bit of gravel on the outside, heading off through turn number 16 as this field heads their way through that section. We were talking, oh boy, that's someone going off the track. That may have potentially been Leon Frost. I just saw him dip off the circuit. May have potentially been Nunez or Brian Hansen's in the pits.
I think it was Nunez.
Let's have a look. Let's take a look to see what happened. Yeah, following Nunez, this was definitely the car that I saw spear off the racetrack. You could see Michelle Lynn briefly blinking out of existence.
That curb.
I'm not sure if that spooked Kurt or it may have been that curb back on the inside turn 16.
Yeah, it looked like he pretty much actually all four wheels off the ground there. I think he sort of high centered the car over that curb. Totally belly slapped it, and it just took the front wheels off the ground. And well, when your front wheels are off the ground, you're not going to be doing any turning there, and he ended up kind of missing that corner. But he lives to fight another day, and as we see Russell Telker, whoa, Frost getting really loose on the brakes there, trying to go as late as he could, and man, that's not going to work out for him. So now Telker taking the lead from him, Michelle Lynn attacking, and so is Brian Trzynski.
And let's see how Brian is going to work all of this out. He was at one point in the lead in the Spec 2 category. He's dropped down to third at the moment in class, and will look to stop that fall anymore because he's got Michael Latarula right behind him. That'd be another loss of position in that class. And reminder to anyone who hasn't seen this series before, these drivers are awarded points based off their overall finishing position, not just in the class, albeit a class win is certainly some nice bragging rights for you, as Leon Frost going to get a move done on Russ Telker. That's going to put Telker right into the crutches of Michelle Lynn right behind these two drivers, going to be running nose to tail. There's a battle for 10th overall and the lead in Spec 2. Now I will raise you this, Josh, talking about how this battle is going to shake out. In the Spec 2 category, we saw Michelle Lynn start from the pole at Cadwell Park. She converted that to a victory. Brian Trzynski's the pole man here at Magny Core. Let's see if that streak's going to continue.
Yeah, you know, I kind of got my, I think I got my money on Michelle today. She's looking kind of, you know, she hasn't made any really crazy moves or anything yet. She's sort of right in position here to make something happen as we see Russell Telker lose it. So that again, Ron, I think that was that curb again. You're trying to get through there. It's not a great place to try to pass, really, but yeah, let's see exactly what happened there. I think the curb got him.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Let's take a look at this to see what happened to Telker. And he hit the barrier and all of this as well. I think what may have got him tripped up a little bit. There you can see. Oh, yeah, that was a huge hit into the inside curb. And he hits the outside wall as well. That's not too big of a whack, but it's still enough to probably tweak that rear suspension and take Russ out of contention. You can see it all started heading off through turn number 15. The car that he was going side by side with, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, was Leon Frost.
Yeah.
And as a result of all that, Frost got tripped up a little bit at the bottom end of the circuit, and Russ tried to take evasive action and give him a wide enough berth on the outside. Hit that curb, and it just gets sent straight off into the barrier. He popped himself up into low Earth orbit and now finds himself well down the running corner.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened there, Ron, for sure. He kind of felt Frost to his left there, and he kind of tried to hug the inside a little just to give him the extra room, maybe not make some contact with the wheels. He's just trying to be safe, and unfortunately clouded that curb, and it sent him flying there. So he's going to lose a bunch of positions, but he has actually caught up to Coliseo, I believe, again, already in the background there. Was that Coliseo? I'm not sure, but it looks like, oh no, that's a different driver. My bad. So Russell Telker taking a pretty big hit on that one.
You know, upon that moment for Russ Telker, I would usually sing Rocket Man, but I don't want the viewers' ears to bleed. Side-by-side racing going on at the north end of the field. You can see James Matthew Sheldon going side-by-side with Felix Samoa. What's going on with Samoa as of late? It hasn't been a mistake, I don't think, or anything of the sort. He's just dropped back a little bit, was battling with Richie Kohan for the race lead, now falling off a little bit, so this is not looking too good for Felix Samoas, but still half of this race left to go. A lot of time left for the reigning Spec Race 4 champions. We'll see a moment. That was him. That was Samoa's actually running wide, heading out of turn at number 17. So my intuition for the first time in 21 years proving me right, which is really saying something since I'm only 20.
Yeah, I had a feeling maybe if I clicked on that one there. I just looked and I saw, you know, a couple people passing him at once, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably an off track for him there, I think. And that's how he lost the positions for sure. So the chicane really catching people out today. It's a spot you don't kind of want to fight for. You want to make sure that you're sort of line astern by the time you end up there. If you're trying to fight for a position into that corner, well, we're not seeing it work out too well for anybody yet, as we're going too wide here with Joshuah and Coliseum, and it looks like Richie is going to win that one out for now.
Yeah, but as we continue to see this race develop, oh, that's blinking and have existence from Kohan. That may not be good. He's blinking wildly. Hopefully, his connection issues will get sorted out. Those serial box Wi-Fi routers clearly not doing these drivers any favors at all. I think it's evened out for him. Keyword being, I think. Let's see if that continues to be a problem. Of course, in this brand new season of iRacing, I've seen in the past some of these drivers get yoinked off of the track, and they got popped into their own session, and after that, you're basically done for. iRacing says, hey, your connection's so bad, we're not even going to let you be out there on the racetrack, which that's a call out if ever you see one. And I think there's going to be an increase of iRacers calling up their internet supplier and just cursing people out.
Yeah, totally. You know, I think it's a positive change here with iRacing for sure. So I believe what the system does is if you start to blink out too much, it removes you from the race for a minute. It lets you kind of have a second, and if your connection improves, then you're allowed to join the race again, obviously way out of position. But I mean, that's kind of the best they can do, I think, right? We don't want people blinking out there, completely ruining other people's races, and I think it's probably pretty positive change. If you do have an absolutely horrible connection, it'll just zap you right out of the race and you're gone, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that's kind of a positive thing here for iRacing, so we don't have so much blinking and so much lagging and stuff like that. But we'll see how it works out. You know, these things, when they're implemented at first, tend to maybe not work quite as well as they should.
Could also be a good incentive for some iRacers to upgrade their internet connection. I mean, I can speak from my experience. I know when I first started getting into this broadcasting stuff, that was finally the push that I needed to upgrade the home Wi-Fi from being a box of Kleenex to something a little bit more sophisticated. As 2x2 heading down into turn number 5, Nate Coliseum in the 8 machine looking to try and grab the lead. He won race number 2 of last season, albeit that was at Lime Rock, which is a completely different racetrack compared to here at Magny-Cours. But who knows, maybe it's going to be those number 2 races for Nate Coliseum to try and be the maestro at. Currently finds himself in P2 at the present moment. Richie Kohan right in front of him, and he's also got the likes of Ethan Orr, Felix Samoas, James Matthew Sheldon, Jason Green, and York Monty all involved in that battle. Right as I said that, James Sheldon looking to stamp and sending it, getting a move done down into turn at number 9. That was a little bit of side-by-side racing, and Richie Kohan bumping up and down. He hit the curb on the exit at turn at number 9, heading off into turn number 10, and it looked like the back of that car was bouncing up and down like a pogo stick.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit surprised here. The curbs, you know, when I kind of at first glance when I was just kind of getting to know this track this morning, didn't really think the curbs were going to be an issue, but you know, maybe some other drivers thinking the same thing there and getting caught out. Those little or giant baguettes, I guess you could say, the big ones on a couple of the inside of the corners there really will upset the car. And I guess, you know, the body of this car is pretty low to the ground and it's pretty exposed, so it's just hanging off those wheels pretty much. You basically have a bathtub in between some wheels, and it's pretty easy to scrape that on the ground, as you can see them really avoiding that orange curb now.
I think there may have been a moment. Yes, there
was.
Oh,
Green on his lid.
Upside down is Jason Green coming out of the final chicane. I knew there was something bad when they went through turn number 15 side by side. Jason Green overshot it a little bit. Just saw that in the corner of my eye. They went side by side all through the chicane. I think it was a curb whack and a bit of a whack of the wheels that went desperately wrong for these two.
Between him and Sheldon.
Heading their way down into turn 15. You got James Sheldon on the inside, Jason Green on the outside, overshoots it a little bit. Still holding his own on the outside line, and contact being made.
Oh, man.
My God, ramping off the front end of that car is Jason Green, tipping over and landing on his lid.
Yeah, that was, it's hard to kind of, it looks like there just wasn't room for Jason to turn in because Matthew was there. Yeah, that's a weird one. That's a weird one. I'm going to kind of chalk that up to just racing incident. There's two drivers trying to kind of use the same piece of track, and they just couldn't sort it out through there. He had to turn in, and there was a car there, and that's just it. He's either going to miss the chicane or turn in, and it looks like maybe Sheldon just a little bit too quick through it, and he's sort of in the middle of the chicane on him there.
Yeah, and somehow Jason Green is back in this race, but two drivers who are out of it include Guido Marzucchi and Brian Szynski. So Szynski going to not be able to replicate the performance from Michelle Lynn 1 week ago and grab the win in the Spec 2 category.
We've lost Michelle Lynn as well.
There's something going on, yeah, because Michelle Lynn's out of it as well. I completely neglected to mention that. I didn't even see the fact that she's out of this race as well.
I think we were,
something went down in that second pack, maybe right after that flip for Jason Green. Let's see. So James Sheldon rejoining this race. Oh no. Making contact with Michelle Lynn and bang into the outside wall. James Sheldon had some rather substantial damage as a result of that contact with himself and Jason Green, and Michelle Lynn in the 215 car.
I think we're about to see another one here. We're going to see a rejoin crash potentially here, Ron.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Lord,
wow. So just a bit of a clown show here for a minute. That's very easy to do, Ron. It's it's easy to look at that and go, what that, but man, it's so easy to do after you've had an accident. You're just trying to kind of stay out of everybody's way. You're not expecting somebody to, you're thinking about what just happened and everything else. And unfortunately, it looks like Sheldon and Michelle getting caught out by kind of, well, it's not the greatest rejoins in the world, let's call them.
Yeah, that's as much as I'm going to put the first incident. Yeah, it does happen to best of us. It happens in the world of racing. So obviously not going to throw these drivers completely to the wayside for an incident like that. But all I'm going to say is, as much as I think that first incident may have been on James Matthew Sheldon being slow on the inside with damage, that second incident was definitely on Michelle rejoining with some damage on the right-hand side of that race car as well. It's unfortunate regardless. It's going to take two very good contenders out of this race. And in all of that, it's actually given the Spec 2 lead to Michael Latarullo in the 826 car, side-by-side racing at the front. Got a flare-up between Richie Cohen and Nate Colascio. There is Michael Latarullo, finds himself in a small little pack, and here's the side-by-side racing at the front of the field. And all this drama has kind of cut down the front pack to size a little bit. Now 4 cars, Colascio, Cohen, Samoas, and Orr. Gonna give us a good battle to talk about right towards the end of this race.
Yeah, big shake-up mid-race here for sure, or actually a little near the end of the race here. Whoa! Oh, that was a close one. Well, almost made me choke on that. Big shake-up here in near the end of the race. So we've lost our leaders from S1. We've lost our leaders from S2. York Mahoney still holding, actually made up a position there in Masters, and we're still hammer and tong here at the front. But yeah, we lost some pretty big players there in one lap. What a bummer.
Yeah, that was like the Hunger Games more than anything else. Just looking through the amount of drivers that were taken out of contention, or just taken out of this race, period. I'm curious, did we actually, I'm trying to remember. I don't think we took a look at a replay to see what happened to Guido in the number 19 car, because
yeah, let's see if we can't find it here.
Well, so we'll have to, I'll just do a little song and dance and jig as we get that replay loaded up. This battle at the front still looking rather intense at the present moment. Nate Colascio and Felix Samoes, of course, very fast in this series. Ethan Orr was rather impressive during the last season, taking a race win overall at Thruxton. Mind you, he was a Spec 2 driver back then, so that's a rather impressive performance to put in, as we may have to hold off that replay as these drivers go 3 wide, hang down the back straightaway, clearly not yielding the warning from the incidents we saw earlier on, as they're still battling hammer and tong, going side by side all the time. Colascio gets that move done. Cohen, not a good exit coming out of the Adelaide hairpin, and he may end up losing another spot to Samoa, as they'll be side by side through 6 into the Nürburgring section of turns 7 and 8. As it's going to work out between these two, let's wait and see. It looks like Cohen going to withstand that challenge. challenge and maybe throw a challenge Nate Colasio's way down the inside into turn number 9, hitting that apex as best as he possibly can, drifting a little bit wide, coming out of the corner, not as wide as Colasio, hits the grass and the gravel and the dirt on the outside, kicking more dust into the air and bringing more gravel out there onto the racetrack. These drivers at the front of the field giving us no time to rest.
Yeah, not at all. It's been, I mean, man, they're sweating up there for sure. This has been full on since the beginning. Samoa is still lingering there in third. Keep an eye on him. He knows how to drive out there, as we know, and he's gonna look for that win. We know he's gonna look for the win. You can tell he's looking for the win out there right now. He wants it, and I think, you know, he's probably gonna make a move here near the end. But I'm looking here at our incident reports, looking for Guido, and I see a ton of people passing Guido, but no incident. So I'm going to click on it. We're going to see what this is. It may be nothing. It may be Guido losing it. Let's have a quick look here.
I will say in the YouTube chat, actually hearing from the man himself, Mr. Guido Marzuki, is PC apparently crashed.
Yeah, I think that's what's happened here. Yeah, we just kind of disappeared from the session.
Racetrack.
Yeah, crash on the computer. Exactly, right on.
Yeah, that still got sting regardless. Gotta love those technical issues. It's I mean, I feel like everyone here at SMB always has some sort of computer issues. I remember our admin here in the Ray Esports Weekend Warriors, Mr. Stevie Ray himself, was dealing with some computer issues. Josh, I remember you had some a couple of seasons ago, and I responded in just the last time this series ran at a track in France and led it on one season ago by responding by cutting my microphone off mid-sentence on purpose to make it seem like an accident, as that was nearly an accident when Richie Cohen and Nate Colasio side by side all through turn at number 5, and you saw Richie Cohen got mega sideways heading all through there. That's now flared up into 3 wide, battling getting down into turn number 7. I don't have a good feeling about this. Look at that. Samoa's hitting that curb on the inside.
Oh, well done, guys.
Cohen gonna try and get the move done on Samoa's and maybe get the move back done on Colasio. Not close enough. Heading through the braking zone into turn number 9, but I think these drivers clearly feeling the pressure. We're getting to the end of this race, Josh. The time is slowly but surely running out. These drivers are responding and just by breaking their elbows out.
Yep, absolutely. That was some great driving from the 3 of them right there. I said, whoa, we got a massive blink there from, I believe I was on Colasio when that happened there, and it just almost lost my telemetry and everything. So we got some blinking happening at the front here with Richie and Colasio. Not something you want to see, but some great driving out there so far. And really, this is anybody of this 4-pack here's race for sure. And I don't know who I have my money on, but it's going to be the guy who stays the cleanest here and sort of makes the most opportunistic move and doesn't get caught out. Pretty good shuffling through that chicane there. Let's hope we can keep it that way.
Yeah, keeping our fingers crossed that that incident we saw earlier on will be the last of the drama at the north end of the field. Gotta say, that's usually how these races go. You find a huge pack at the front, then there's an incident that kind of cuts it down to size, and then we get the drivers battling for the win, and they usually keep it clean all the way to the end. Knowing my luck, though, I probably just jinxed it. We're going to see those cars go off in a cloud of dust in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, they're still out there.
They're still good. Yep, I think we're okay. Looks like we've kind of, at least for the time being, you know, with a couple minutes left here, you want to at least survive till the very end here. So that's what I'd be thinking anyway if I was up at the front, is it looks like we're shuffling position again, but they're doing a pretty good job of staying off each other here. You can tell these guys are trying to stay off each other with all their might. As I say that, he goes up the middle, but very nice and clean. Wow, what a move there up the middle. And again, you can't make moves like that without good drivers around you. You have to make people have to allow you to make good passes like that sometimes, Ron.
Yeah, usually have to give and take a little bit. I think is a real message that a lot of these drivers have to learn to do well in this series. But these drivers still side by side. Cohen not lifting, heading all through 7 and 8. That may have screwed him a little bit.
Be a
He's now in striking distance of the drivers right behind him, Felix Samoes and Ethan Orr. Maybe got pounds on Cohen, who's definitely rattled up after that moment through 7 and 8. That could have ended in such disaster. Thankfully, it did not, though. So we are still good to go in this race. Colasio leading it. Cohen still within striking distance. Will he go for the move into Imola of 12 and 13? Looks like he's going to hold off for now. However, they're coming to the white flag this time by, and that is going to be where this race really heats up.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ron. Anybody can take this. I think every single one of them thinks they're deserving of it today, and only one of them is going to get it. So we will see who that is, but it looks like here as we have Richie kind of trying to make a move on Coliseum here. This is the time to do it. You kind of want to make sure you're in position on this last lap. I'm really not sure being in first place is where you want to be.
Yeah, not sure if that's the right strategy, especially heading down that back straightaway for the final time in this race. But the white flag in the air, only one more lap of racing action, and Nate Coliseum finds that white flag in the midst of a hornet's nest. He's still leading at both a 1/10 of a second gap between himself and Richie Cohan, who, as we've seen thus far in this race, is willing to give it all in that 12 machine. That's not a comfortable cushion for Coliseum to find himself holding on to at all. Felix Samoas, he may be in the catbird seat, the driver of the 31 car, going to be within striking distance. I'm going to be keeping my eye out for Ethan Orr, though. He's going to have the strongest draft, and as we've seen, mainly Thruxton one season ago, he can usually be the most patient and strike while the iron is hot and get the moves done as these drivers fall off around him. Let's see him down the inside, heading down into turn number 5, 3-wide action with Orr on the inside, Coliseum in the middle, Cohan on the outside line. I thought that was going to end in a car popping up into low Earth orbit, but thankfully for these racers, and thankfully for us on this broadcast, it did not. It's still a drag race, heading down into 7 and 8 for the last time, 2x2, covered by nothing, side by side between Orr and Cohan. Cohan taking a lot of liberties with the inside track limits off through turn number 8. That may affect him a little bit. I wonder if he picked up a slowdown and all that. Certainly not slowing down at all. And side by side, nearly coming to blows between Samoas and Ethan Orr. That could have ended in tears. And all of that, Nate Coliseum, who started this final lap in the race lead, heads his way out of turn number 11 and 4th. Shows you how quickly these races can turn their head. But we're turning our heads looking at these drivers. Look at that, Samoas swapping sides like he's flipping burgers, heading down into 12 and 13.
Nice.
Thought about the outside, thought about the inside, thought about the outside, and then didn't go for either. He's still within striking distance, but he's getting struck by multiple cars. Coming out of turn 14, Felix Samoas spins. He gets hit by Coliseum Ethan Orr, and in all of that, that's going to slow them down to Richie Cohan behind the wheel of the number 12 machine. He's going to find himself heading into turn number 15 with a 1.5 second gap. Richie Cohan probably didn't expect himself to be in this position, considering how much drama he's had to deal with in this final lap. But Richie Cohan going to cross that start-finish line to take the second win this season in dramatic fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. What a last lap there for sure. Unfortunately, yeah, it looks like Samoa's just kind of got caught out a little bit there and wasn't able to kind of put it together. But wow, what a last lap. Great racing from everybody. What a track, Ron.
That was absolutely fantastic. Cohan was standing the challenge. I gotta say, kind of playing into Cohan's back pocket towards the end of that race was definitely that moment for Felix Samoas, and all of that, trying to get a move done for the race lead. Finds himself finishing in 5th, which granted is better than the spot that he found himself in at the end of the last week's race, but still not good at all for him. He's probably going to be kicking himself after that moment coming out of turn 14 and all that drama. York Monty breaks his way up into 4th, winning in the Masters category. Incredible credits to our P10 finisher, our Spec 2 winner, Michael Lattarulo in the 826 car. Well done to him. Well done to the drivers up and down the grid. Holy cow, that was a barn burner.
Yeah, absolutely. Great race all around through all the classes there too, as we get Michael Lattarulo taking a win in S2. You know, it wasn't really that one wasn't on the cards for me today there for Michael, so he's really punched above his weight, at least in my mind here, and that's a great win for him in S2 for sure. Great to see a new winner, or a different winner here in S2, and really unfortunate for some of that mid-race shenanigans there. You know, we took some big players out there pretty early on before the end, and that's going to allow some other people to get some wins, Ron, and pretty good stuff. We got Jeff Jacobson as well, punching pretty good in S1 there in 9th place, taking a top 10 today. That's a good showing for him. So pretty good race today, Ron. I really like this track. It's you know, I'm going to try to fix my back tonight so I can actually race tomorrow, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, as someone who spent the first like 2.5 months of this year with some pretty severe back pain, I can assure you that is that's wishful thinking there, Mr. Wilkie. You could see that. Kind of looking at that angle, it looked a little bit looked like some very aggressive defending, must be said, from Richie Cohan. Would want to take a look at another angle of that. And really, that moment for Samoas was, I think he was going to lose it as is, but certainly got an assist there from Nate Coliseum. Yeah, that's actually,
yeah.
It's borderline there with Richie Cohan with that blocking maneuver. I'm sure Felix Samoas not going to be happy with him at all.
Not a big fan of that. Not a big fan of that. I'm just going to say that. You know, I don't usually pipe in like that, but that was a very clear jink, both ways to try to, nope, you're not getting by me. And we just don't like that around here, personally. I don't like it.
Yeah, I think Richie Kohan maybe going to try and defend himself in all of that by saying that the second jink over to the right-hand side was him trying to set
Pretty
himself
borderline,
up for
you're right.
number 12. But yeah, you can definitely tell that was a rather early turn and just slowly moving his way over to the right-hand side of the track. I gotta say though, I mean you can see him. Upon taking a look at the onboard, it definitely looked like a double jink there. Turned over, kind of blocked, and then turned back into the corner. It's still not going to take him out of a winning position, I believe, at the end of this race, but not going to win him a fan in the form of Felix Samoas, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's one of those moves, and it's pretty clear that, you're just kind of trying to keep your position there, which is something we'd all do. I can't say I wouldn't even do that, but I'm not a huge fan of it. Would be nice, he probably would have got up the inside of him. Maybe they have a side-by-side battle into the last corner, and you just kind of wipe that away there. But is what it is. He's going to play defensively, and he took the win today. A good win, by the way. He was out there, dicing back and forth the whole race. Lots of clean passes, lots of good driving. So great win for him today. Good to see a new guy up at the top, and yeah, we'll see how the rest of the season goes here with the S1, S2 drivers. That was a pretty good one, Ron.
And Richie Kohan making his season debut here for Season 2 of 2025 for the Formula V Weekend Warriors, going to grab his first win. Considering we're 2 races in, we have yet to see our reigning champion of Tortolo. I gotta wonder if that Spec 1 class is going to be wide open at the end of this season. There's no question or shadow of a doubt about it. But with all that being said, I don't know why I said but in that tone, but I said it anyways. I think with all that being said, we're going to move off into some interviews. Can see some drivers looking to have a chat with us, and trying to figure out who I want to have a chat with first. Got some drivers out there. I think I'm going to start with our Masters winner and P4 finisher at the end of all of this, Jörg Monty, now joining us here in the commentary booth. Jörg, that looked like a pretty tame race from your perspective. Didn't see that drama at the front of the field, but still pretty well executed race from you, finishing P4 and taking the first Masters win of this Formula V season. Talk us through it.
First laps, first race this week at all, so I'm quite happy with P4, but I have to pay them more money out front so they can slow down to let me catch up again. But
Power
it was
of a bribe.
Exactly. No, but it was actually quite interesting, the race for me. Sadly, that Jason and I think James, I'm not sure, came together on the chicane. And somehow I touched them as well in the race. I don't know where, I don't know why. I thought I was far off of them. But I still collected 4 inks from that one. But then I lost the touch to the other guys in front. And I saw them battling everywhere. And I thought, maybe there is a chance to catch up. But it was not enough laps. So I just tried to do my best to catch up, see what's happening. At the end, sadly, Felix got involved in something, and I passed him, so I got 1 freebie. Thank you, Felix. Very kind of you. But otherwise, everything was okay like that. I'm happy with P4. Definitely happy.
Yeah, I can imagine so, and doubly so getting that Masters win and all that. And we're actually taking a look at a replay to see your view of James Sheldon and Jason Green coming to blows, heading off through that final chicane, and Jason popping himself upside down, sending himself off into low Earth orbit in the process of that. Can imagine that was a Code Brown moment, but overall, pretty well executed drive from you around this track, which we haven't really seen in the other Weekend Warriors before, at least in terms of my time covering the entirety of the Weekend Warriors series. So what are your thoughts on this place?
It's, I would say it's an interesting track. You mean the track, you mean? Of the
yes.
place. Okay, the track is actually quite good, I think. I would love to drive the Formula 4 there once. Just see how it is with that one. It might be quite brutal on the chicanes, but I think that would be fantastic racing on that with the Formula Ford.
Yeah, I was just going to say we got the other Formula Fords and the Spec Racer Fords coming up at this very same racetrack tomorrow. So are we going to be seeing you out there? And if so, what are your thoughts into it?
It's not 100% sure, but I'm trying. But I can't promise 100% at the moment. But I would say around 80% sure that I'm going to attend on the race, yeah.
Well, we'll wait and see in about 24 hours time to see if you're out there on the racetrack tomorrow. But always good to have a chat with you, Jorg. And before we let you go and celebrate this opening Masters win of this season, is there anybody you want to give a thanks or a shout out?
Yeah, to all the races, of course. It was quite intense in the chat at the moment, especially with the crush as well. But everything was polite and civilized, in my opinion. So I like to shout out for them. And to you, Joshua and Ron, of course. You're still doing an awesome job.
Thanks.
And thank you very much for the kind words, Jorg. Cookie has been dispatched to your location. But Jorg, thank you for joining us in the commentary booth. Always good to have a chat with you. And excited to see you back out on the track, hopefully tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. Okay. Good night, guys.
Take it easy. That right there was Jorg Mani, the recipient of the Masters Trophy at the end of this race, and also the recipient of a cookie at the end of this. Not sure if it's going to be a chocolate chip, oatmeal raisin, or maybe Biscoff. But before I get started talking about cookies, Josh, I'll let you take another driver to have a chat with.
Yeah, let's grab James Sheldon here. Let's have a talk with him. James, what a race out there today. Looks like, up at the front of the pack, you guys were, dicing up pretty good, and then unfortunately made some contact in the chicane there. How'd you see it?
Well, I just talked to Ethan about it, and he explained the rules to me that regardless of how far alongside Jason was, I should have given room. But at the time, it's like I'm going alongside the chicane. I can't really see him. Mm-hmm. When I do lift, I do try to give room. But if you watch back at the replay, he's still turning in to avoid his own off track. So I'm really not sure what kind of an overtake it was trying to be. But either way, we'd have lost the draft. So,
Yeah, that's kind of what it looked like to us here in the booth as well. It's just kind of two cars kind of just meeting on the same piece of track there, and we know neither one of you guys are trying to make contact with each other, of course, but that chicane, I think you kind of nailed it there as well. You got somebody trying to avoid an off track, another guy maybe going a little deep and trying to avoid the off track as well, and just made contact in the middle, which is unfortunate out there. But other than that, you guys were dicing it up pretty good. How do you like this track, Magny-Cours? I haven't had a chance to race around it yet, but it looks like a pretty awesome track.
Yeah, I like it. It's a nice track. Definitely good for the racing. I was surprised by how well we were all not spinning out at the chicane, which was nice. Obviously, collision at the chicane. I knew it'd be trouble, but apart from that, yeah, it's a nice track to just drive around. So maybe we could have it next year. Not next year, next season.
Next season, yeah, I'm hoping. We have the FF and the SRF coming up at Magny-Cours as well. Are you going to be taking part in those in the tomorrow?
No, I'm not. Unfortunately, I have to get ready for work, which is a night shift, so probably not going to be able to do those.
Dahmer, yep, I don't think I'm going to be able to either, with a bit of a back injury, but yeah, it looks like we're going to be moving on in the season here. You lost some kind of valuable points today, but looking forward to the rest of the season. Is there anybody out there you'd like to thank?
I thank the broadcasters, Jim, admins, everybody that sets it up. Sponsor, who's sponsor today? Was it Russell?
Yep, Russell Telker today in the ALS Foundation.
Telker, yeah, thanks to him as well. Always good to have a sponsor.
Excellent. Right on, James. Well, we'll catch you next weekend, and don't worry too much about that. I think, two guys just trying to kind of battle for the same piece of road, and hopefully you can grab some points at the next one there. We can keep her going.
Yeah, thank you.
And that right there was James Matthew Sheldon, who maybe being himself up a little bit. As far as I'm concerned, I'm kind of with
he's
you
hard
there,
on
Josh.
himself. Yeah, he's not trying. Yeah, I think so too. We know James is he's not out there trying to hit people, and he always apologizes when he does, and same thing with Jason. It's just racing's racing sometimes.
Yeah, I gotta say, in all of that, seeing James Matthew Sheldon and Jason Green getting involved in an incident, I say this with legitimately all the respect in the world to both of those guys. They're fantastic racers and fantastic gentlemen. It's going to be a bit of an apology fest between the two of them, but
yeah, you're right.
Before I say anything that may result in me getting beat up by one of these drivers, I think we're going to drag one more in to have a quick little chat before we wrap things up, and that right there is Ethan Orr joining us now in the commentary booth. Ethan, welcome into the booth, and well done on the podium here at Magny-Cours. How about you talk us through that hectic race?
Oh yeah, that was a pretty controversial race, I think, but it worked out for me in the end. sorry to everyone who got wrapped up in instance there. But you know, it's so draft heavy that you kind of expect that that's going to happen, especially if people are driving more aggressively than usual. But yeah, my strategy was just to sit back and try something on the last lap, and for the most part, it worked out.
Yeah, it did work out for you rather well towards the end of that race. I think outside that spin kind of really did catch out yourself and Nate at the end of that race when Samoa spun coming out turn number 14, slowed the both of you down. Still pretty hard challenge at the end of that race, and not to put any pressure on you. Coming out turn number 3, I was like, let's keep an eye out for Ethan Orr. I was getting flashbacks of Thruxton one season ago when you were able to pick your way through the chaos. So kind of getting sort of similar vibes around this place. Would you say, despite it being so tight and twisty, that Magny-Cours a bit of a draft fest, or what?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's that technical middle sector, you know, that decreasing radius turn. But other than that, yeah, it's all just staying in the draft. You're flat through most of it. So.
And, you know, speaking of a draft fest, we're going to be heading to one in 1 week's time. Summit Point, that put on one of the best Formula V Weekend Warriors races of all time 1 season ago, and I have a feeling it's going to be a barn burner in 1 week's time. So are you going to be out there on the track for that? And if so, what are your thoughts heading into it?
Unfortunately not. I'm bummed to miss it, but I'll be pulling up the broadcast. I'll watch. It was a great race last time, so you know it always is.
And hopefully everyone else will be tuning into that broadcast in 1 week's time here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, the exclusive home here to the Weekend Warriors. That was cheap. I apologize. But Ethan, well done on the podium here at the end of this race. And before we let you go and spray some of that champagne on the podium, is there anybody you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Yeah, everyone at home watching, you guys for putting on the broadcast, and the Weekend Warriors for coming out and always putting on a great race.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, congratulations on the podium here at Magny-Cours, and excited to see you back out on the racetrack, not next week, but hopefully soon in this season.
Yep, thanks. See you guys.
And that right there was Ethan Orr, your podium finisher at the end of this race. And Josh, I just noticed, I believe race winner Richie Cohen is actually up there in the interview waiting area. Just joined us as we were wrapping it up with Ethan. So I'll let you have dibs on the race winner.
Sounds good.
Video was good.
Richie, what a race out there today, man. Man, there was probably 4 or 5 or maybe even at one point 9 drivers that probably could have taken the win there today, but you ended up coming out on top. How'd you see it out there?
Thank you. Yeah, that was a lovely race. Started from P8 and just made positions with the race event. So yeah, that was good. A bit tough, as always. The drivers are really skilled. And I had tons of fun racing today out there, so yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, it looked like you definitely had some speed out there today at Magny-Cours. Have you been taking lots of practice around here in the last little bit? It being sort of a new track as well as a pay one. You know, we were actually pretty surprised, or not surprised, but happy to see so many drivers out there today. I've not really had a chance to drive around here much, but it looks like a really fun track. Is this one of your faves as well, or not so much?
Not really, because I only bought the track yesterday. I only started doing it today in the morning. Didn't have a lot of practicing, so I was a bit slow in quali, resulting me in P8, but made it up for the race. So nice win. Enjoy that.
Awesome. So a bit controversial at the end there. There was a bit of a jank to the left and then jank to the right. Was that a conscious move there, or are you just trying to set up the corner for yourself?
That was a stressful move. I was trying to, if I went on the inside and I took that corner, we would have ended up too wide.
Right, yeah.
A bit aggressive, I agree. But I just wanted the race win, so...
That's fair, yeah. An honest man and Richie Cohen here for sure. So yeah, no, that's kind of the way I saw it as well. It's a little bit of a shoulders out move, maybe slightly questionable, but you know, I think you're going to get away with that one. So pretty clean driving right up to that point too, right? If there had been a bunch of maybe not so clean driving leading up to that, maybe it would be kind of frowned upon. But honestly, I think that was a pretty good move, like you said there. You're going to end up too wide, you know, probably end up on your lid there maybe if you hadn't kind of closed the door. So good win today, Richie, and I believe we're headed out to Summit Point next. One of the best races we've ever seen in the V's at Summit Point. Are you going to be taking part in that one?
Thank you for congratulating me, and yeah, I'll be looking forward to Summit Point. Obviously a draft track, so it kind of depends how lucky you are in that race. So we'll just have to say where we end up.
Yeah, definitely. Shoulders got to be out on that one, and it is a bit of a race of survival around here, or around there. I know from experience as well. So, right on, man. Good win today. And is there anybody you'd like to thank out there?
No. Yeah, obviously just like friends and family. But yeah, thank you for congratulating me. It was a nice race.
Excellent, man. Right on. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
See you in a bit. Take care, guys.
You too.
And that right there was Richie Kohan. Left the commentary booth before I even got a chance to drag him out, and that sounds a little bit rude. We have to drag him out of the commentary booth here on the Discord server. But before anyone else gets scared out of joining us in the commentary booth, Josh, that was an absolutely fantastic race here at Magny Core. I have a feeling that these drivers may have a little bit of beef coming out of it.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, these races that are going to be so close and tight on a track like this that is so, twisty and so on, you're going to end up running into that stuff. You got to get your shoulders out every once in a while, as we saw there. And, sometimes it's going to work for you. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes somebody's going to get a little bit frustrated with you. Sometimes they're not. And that's just racing. You got to make decisions out there. Not every single one of them is going to be perfect. And, that's what we're dealing with. And to be honest, it just makes for a great race. That was a really good race, man.
And let's take a look at the results at the end of this broadcast to bring it all home at the end of a brilliant day of racing action to kick off week number 2 here for the Weekend Warriors. When it's all said and done, Richie Kohan, the Brit, going to grab the win, 1.5 seconds at gap between himself and P2 finisher Nate Colasio, with Ethan Orr running at your podium in 3rd. We have York Monty winning it in the Masters category, finishing this race in 4th. Felix Samoas, who was involved in that battle right towards the end, is going to finish in P5 after a spin coming out of the 4th to last corner. We have Leon Frost, the other rookie here in the Weekend Warriors, going to finish in 6th from James Sheldon in P7. Kurt Nunez will be classed in 8th at the end of all of this, with Jeff Jacobson in 9th, and Michael Latarula, your Spec 2 winner at the end of this race, rounding out your top 10. Jim Brewster, Series Admin, going to finish right behind in 11th. Hank Mell in 12th. Chris Scriven will finish in 13th. Jason Greider in P14. Travis Rail in 15th. Nick Tullo in 16th. Russell Telker will finish right behind in P17. Wayne Buttermore in 18th. Looking through some of the other drivers that we have classified at the end of this race, some of them being a couple of laps down. It continues on with Joshua Flores in 19th. Jason Green, after being at 1 point upside down, still finishes on the lead lap, albeit down in 20th. Brian Hansen going to finish in 21st. The last of the cars actually grabbed the checkered flag. Then looking through some of the retirements, it includes Michelle Lynn, Brian Suzinski, Guido Marzuki, with John Toms in 25th, not taking the start at the very beginning of this race. But those are your results here at Magny Core for round number 2 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors. It was a brilliant race. Summit Point in 1 week's time is going to be a heck of a lot of fun, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Summit Point, always a banger for sure. I love that track. I love driving around it. These cars race super good around there. Honestly, I haven't found too many cars that don't race pretty good around there, so should be an excellent race. But we do have some more stuff coming up here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, Ron, and maybe you can take it away for us.
Oh, that we absolutely do. We got the American Muscle Series on Tuesdays at 9:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They're about midway through their season already. We've had some pretty good racing, and funnily enough, in all of that, you can catch the latest episode, The Sim Racer's Eye, here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, following Matt Malone's perspective for the round a couple of weeks ago at Road Atlanta on his route to victory in that rain-soaked race. That was a good one. Josh was on the production for that. I was just tuning in. That is always some fun with those old-school Mustangs. Then, come time for the Wednesdays, still got 2 more editions of Wildcard Wednesdays here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. We're into the season finale for the Ray Esports Club Racing League. It's going to be the season finale for the GT4s for Group Number 2 this upcoming Wednesday. And we also got the whole season of the Sim Racers Group F4 Championship at 9:45 Eastern on Wednesday night. Then, come time for the weekends, we have got you absolutely covered with the Weekend Warriors of Formula Vs that you can catch here on Saturdays weekly at 3:20 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Then On Sundays, we got you covered with the Formula Fords at 1:45 and the Spec Racer Fords at 3:45. And that doesn't even do it for the action on Sundays. In fact, coming up just about every single Sunday is the action from the XSLR series on Sundays at 8:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Dirt Oval stuff is done. We're now into the Pro 4 dirt racing trucks. Had a pretty brilliant race 1 week ago at Wild West Motorsports Park, and incidentally, you may be seeing a little bit of that action in the not too far off future here on SMB as well. So happy to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. We're on the final push to 1,000 subscribers here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Thank you to all of you who have hit that subscribe button thus far, and we hope you enjoy all of this racing action. But as for this broadcast here tonight of the Formula V Weekend Warriors round number 2 at Magny Core, I think that will just about do it. And so for myself, Ron Maunz, and Josh Wilkie working with me on today's broadcast, working the comms and the cams and doing a wonderful job in the process, I say thank you also very much for watching this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future. Season 1 of 2025. Let's see what sort of adventures that it has in store. And pace cars way through the corner. That wasn't the crest doing him dirty.
There right off the beginning is something you probably want to monopolize on right away, honestly, in a rain race.
Involved in that as well. Godin, I believe, is a newer racer. Oh, that's a big crash coming out of the corner. Right as I was mentioning all of those racers, that we saw him have that off-track moment not terribly long ago, and he has come back from a... And oh my God, that's a big wreck coming out of turn number 4. Multiple cars around, a little bit of contact going to Chris Montgomery as well. I saw that car kind of jerk around a little bit through that corner, but you can see Montgomery maybe got to size up a move on Coliseo, as Coliseo may try and get a move on him. That is 5-6 cars covered by just about nothing on this racetrack. Nearly 4 wide through the corner. Look at Coliseo going in way deep into turn 5. He's got to lose out on that spot on Chris Montgomery and maybe Coliseo. Too long contact being... Week Finally, Formula V Weekend Warriors crash them up Wreckfest at the checkered flag. May God have mercy on both Josh and I's graphics cards because the event does